Welcome to the Nephilim Files 11. This is obviously hybrid giants. It was shot 100 yards or so from the subject with a DJI Osmo. We're exclusively researching high ground water sources right now because the aquifer in South Florida is beginning to get tainted with the saltwater intrusion since seawater levels are rising. The creatures we found are moving to isolated water sources, that is, water sources that are not connected to the Great Florida Aquifer. We're talking about stormwater sources, rainwater sources, things that have been dug as alternative water sources to the aquifer. Our research data led us into these sources of water in the higher grounds, and we're finding these creatures. Multiple types of creatures present in these areas, as though there's a gathering around the water source. Well, how big is this thing, really? We can see the isosceles triangle-shaped eyes there, and as we roll the footage, you can see the creatures got a little bit of a movement there. We can see where the camera's struggling, and it's actually blending in, and the retransmission of those colors coming off all these plants are hitting that creature's skin, and it's reflecting. Looks like we got a hand up here. You can see what looks like fingers up to the side, and possibly some other creatures hanging out with him. I mean, there's big creatures all through this particular area that we like to hike. But you can see how the retransmission comes and goes. Where it's blurry here now and focused on his face, here it's the opposite. It's a little bit clearer on the front, and he's all blurred out. That's our camera struggling to pull any definition, specifically because the creature is flattened out due to that retransmission that we talk about. The glow from the plants is coloring its skin, therefore the camera can't tell what's going on. It's up to us to ascertain whether or not we're going to be eaten by a giant creature, not the camera. So we spend a lot of time studying all of this, so when we're there, we pick right up on them. They either smell, and the wind's blowing towards us so we can actually smell them, because it really is that simple. A lot of people don't realize that. If the wind is blowing the opposite way, if it's blowing away from you, you can be 5 feet from these things and not even realize they're there. Let that wind switch. You know what I mean? But you can see he's there, and we've got, some movement here. So what does this actually equal out to, right? You can see his nostrils and the bridge of his nose and both of his eyes, and then we've got this big head here. And then, of course, there's probably other creatures, like we said, but you can plainly see that guy's in there. What is this, as far as size? Well, right in here is the 6-foot range. Now, it's up to us to figure out whether this guy is actually sitting or standing. I have a sneaking suspicion that this guy is sitting. You can see what appears to be part of his jaw here. So this thing's head is enormous. And yeah, I think he's got a hand up, and probably there are other creatures all around it. They like to pile up. I'm sure that it represents a form of security for them. But you can really see him in there, and in that eye, just kind of glaring, and you can see the other one there. But it's difficult when you're there, if you don't really understand that these guys exist, to even come to any kind of conclusions that this is what it could be moving around in the trees around you. And yet we can see him in there. We've got several different really good frames.